Shadows twist where whispers grow. The edge of light begins to flow. A world unseen through fractured glass, where futures meet the echoes past. Step closer now, the veil is thin. A riddle starts where dreams begin. The experimental medium calls your name. Nothing here will be the same.
We're diving into Andrew Jackson Davis, a really fascinating figure, especially in the early days of spiritualism.
Absolute pivotal. Our mission here is to explore who he was, his life's work, and particularly his ideas about death, the afterlife, stuff like that.
Yeah, and his philosophies, his own experiences as a medium, what phenomena were linked to him, also the people around him, who were they?
And crucially, what made his whole viewpoint stand out? What was so unique about it?
Who got some great source material, his own writings, some analysis. So yeah, let's get started.
Okay, well, Andrew Jackson Davis, he really helped lay down some foundational ideas for spiritualism back in the mid-19th century. He wasn't just talking spirituality, he was trying to build this whole framework.
A framework that included our world, the spirit world, even the cosmos, right?
Exactly. His idea of the spirit world, which he called the Summerland, was, well, it was pretty groundbreaking.
It wasn't just some vague heaven, was it? One source, a stellar key to the Summerland, talks about a universal Summerland.
Right. Not just tied to Earth. Think
Yeah.
bigger. Cosmic, even.
Right.
A destination for spirits from, like, countless planets out there in the universe. Way beyond our solar system.
That's a huge leap from the typical religious afterlife views of the time. Very expansive.
Totally. And his reasoning was interesting, too. He suggested this Summerland is formed from the aggregate emanations of all these planets.
Aggregate emanations, so like the combined spiritual energy.
Kind of. He said each world gives off these spiritualized elements.
Yep.
The analogy used is like approaching a flower garden. You smell the combined scent, the life, before you even see the individual flowers.
Ah, okay. So the collective vibe of all these worlds creates the spirit realm.
That's the idea. And he didn't limit it to just living things either.
Oh.
He even thought dead Earth had emanations because it's always undergoing change, transformation.
Constant change produces emanations.
Yeah. And he had this theory about elements arising from Earth, some denser stuff maybe reorganizes near the surface, but the core life force, that flows out, like an aura.
An aura leaving the planet, and that makes Earth denser over time.
According to him, yeah. It really shows how he saw everything as interconnected, always in flux.
Okay, so that's the Summerland, this vast cosmic afterlife. What about the philosophical nuts and bolts behind his worldview?
Well, central to it all was this concept of a divine mind, the source of everything, life, power.
And he didn't just see it as an idea, right? He thought mind or vitality was actual substance.
Yes, precisely. He argued you could see the evidence in all the changes happening in the material world. Constant activity proved this underlying vital substance. It's an early attempt, really, to kind of bridge science and spirit.
Trying to find a basis for it all. And this divine mind, or universal vitality, as he also called it, it shaped everything. Planets, their movements.
It was the principle behind it all, he thought. Acting on matter, causing composition, decomposition, the fundamental processes of nature.
And how did this divine mind interact with us, with humans?
Ah, well, he brought in electricity and magnetism there, saw them as key mediums
Mediums?
for nature, and ultimately the divine mind, to influence us. But they didn't act directly on the body, he said. They influenced our vital principle first, our life force.
Interesting. So energy affects energy first, then the physical.
Kind of. He even linked cold states to electricity and warm states to magnetism. So these forces weren't just physics concepts for him. They were part of our physical and spiritual experience.
A bridge between the material and immaterial.
You could say that. And the brain played a big role, too.
How so?
He called it a spiritual or vital galvanic battery.
Like an actual battery?
Metaphorically, yeah. The cerebrum was positive, the cerebellum negative. Their interaction, their reciprocal motion, was what generated and sustained our spiritual essence, our self-supporting power.
So the brain generates spiritual energy in his model.
Wow. It shows him trying to find that biological link, He also talked a lot about matter always being in motion and electricity being generated when things decompose. Plants, water, animals.
Basic chemistry generating electricity.
Right. But then he believed this gross electricity evolved, got refined into magnetism. Magnetism was higher, pure, the most refined terrestrial element, creating this positive-negative dynamic. Magnetism warm, electricity cold. Earth and atmosphere.
Always this refinement, this progression upwards.
Exactly. That's a core theme. Everything came from this exhaustless fountain of never-ending materials, he said. Understand the source, the first eternal cause, and you can understand all the effects.
It all follows from that initial point.
And there's a universal law of matter. Every particle is moving, changing form, passing through orders, degrees, always seeking association, equilibrium.
Like everything is striving towards something.
Yes, and each form is a type, a foreshadowing of higher spheres, like steps on a ladder.
Ice, water, steam, different forms, same essence, moving towards maybe a higher state.
That's a great analogy for it. It all fits into his grand scheme. The great positive mind, cause, works through nature effect to produce spirit, the ultimate.
Cause, effect, ultimate. Very structured.
Very. And interestingly, human will. He saw that as an effect, not a primary cause.
So not totally free will then.
Comparatively free, he'd say,
Cool.
dependent on circumstances being favorable. Your environment shapes your will's expression.
Okay, quite deterministic in a way. So we have the Summerland, the divine mind, electricity, magnetism, a whole system. But Davis wasn't just a philosopher, was he? He was known as a medium.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Widely known. The sources often describe him entering a magnetic state or being a clairvoyant.
And his abilities apparently developed over time.
Seems so. His autobiography, The Magic Staff, mentions a prediction that his powers would grow. He'd be able to heal, predict things, see distant events, solve psychological puzzles.
And speak eloquently without needing to be magnetized first.
Right. That was part of the predicted development. But it wasn't like he was on all the time.
No.
No, the sources mentioned times when his clairvoyance just wasn't there, suggesting it was a specific state he accessed.
Okay. And how did they explain how spirits might interact through him? Was there a mechanism proposed?
There was. They talked about a spiritual organization composed of matter in a very high state of refinement.
Highly refined matter making up spirits.
That seems to be the idea. And these spirits could supposedly concentrate magnetic and positive elements.
The same elements he talked about in his philosophy.
Yes, to influence the atmosphere's magnetism and electricity, which could then move objects or cause those rappings people heard.
So, a physical or quasi-physical explanation using subtle energies for spirit phenomena, trying to make it scientific almost.
Definitely try and provide a framework. And one source, the philosophy of spiritual intercourse, notes something quite interesting.
What's that?
That this idea of spiritual communication happening via electrical vibrations was actually a new concept, even for some spirits in the second sphere.
Really? So Davis was potentially channeling new information about spirit communication itself?
It implies that, yeah, like he was a conduit for emerging understandings, even on the other side.
Fascinating. And did they distinguish between different types of spirits?
They did mention that spirits from different planets had varying degrees of communication ability, but those from Earth. They kept a special affinity for people still here.
Which would explain Davis's connection primarily to earthly spirits, perhaps.
That seems logical within his framework.
Yeah.
He wasn't just passively receiving, he was positioned as this vital link, helping define how these interactions could even happen.
Makes sense. Now, he wasn't working in a vacuum. Who were some of the key people around him, helping him, supporting him?
Well, the magic staff mentions a scribe and a poet, identified as Brother Harris. They were crucial in getting his ideas down and out there.
Brother Harris, the poet. He seemed really convinced of Davis's mission, didn't he? Saw it as almost divine.
Extremely enthusiastic, yes. Works hard to spread Davis's principles. And the scribe is described as a very close friend, a collaborator, a spirit brother. Shows that tight inner circle.
Right. And wasn't Davis also involved with the publication?
Yes, he was the editor for the Herald of Progress. Gave him a platform to reach a wider audience directly.
And we also see names like Reverend Mr. Bush mentioned, exploring Swedenborg through mesmerism.
Exactly. That gives you context for the intellectual climate. People were exploring consciousness, unseen realms, using tools like mesmerism. Swedenborg's mystical ideas were being re-examined.
So mesmerism, Swedenborg. It was a time of intense spiritual and intellectual seeking.
Oh, hugely. The mid-19th century was buzzing with this stuff. Mesmerism, exploring altered states. It created the perfect environment for spiritualism to really take root, and Davis was right there articulating it.
Okay, so bringing it all together, the Summerland, the philosophy, the mediumship, the people around him, what really makes Davis's whole system unique? Why was he so influential?
I think it's the sheer scope and the interconnectedness of it all. His great harmonia. He wasn't just focused on, say, spirit messages. He was building this grand, unified theory.
Connecting the natural, the spiritual, the celestial, everything linked.
Right, and trying to give it that scientific and philosophical underpinning. Moving it away from just pure faith or superstition.
Yeah.
He was looking for universal laws.
The laws governing planets, bodies, spirits, everything.
Yes. And his view of the afterlife, the Summerland, was so much more. Well, progressive and big compared to traditional heaven-hell models.
No static endpoint, but constant progression.
Constant progression, refinement,
Yeah.
advancement towards perfection, that was key for everything, not just human souls. This dynamic evolutionary aspect feels very distinct.
It wasn't a fixed picture of reality, but an ongoing process.
Exactly. That attempt to blend science, philosophy, and spiritual experience was pretty radical for its time, and it really resonated, helping spiritualism gain traction. He offered a system, a seemingly rational way to understand the mysterious.
So wrapping up this deep dive, Andrew Jackson Davis clearly emerges as a major force. His ideas about the spirit world, his philosophical system, his mediumship, the community, all hugely influential in shaping how people thought about death and what comes after.
He really gave a unique and powerful voice to the spiritualist movement right when it was taking off.
Which leaves us with something for you, the listener, to think about. How does this 19th century attempt by Davis to weave together science, philosophy, and spirit, how does that echo or contrast with our modern explorations of consciousness, quantum physics, the nature of reality itself?
Yeah. Maybe looking deeper into his own writings or the wider history of spiritualism could shed more light on those big, enduring questions.
Absolutely. Exploring these past thinkers really can offer fresh perspectives for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Andrew Jackson Davis.
Whispers creeping through the haze, shadows dance in twisted ways, echoes hum from worlds unseen. This is where the strange convene. Step into the unknown mind, secrets hidden, twist and bind, truth that becomes your home. Questions rise like fragile smoke. The uncharted realm silently spoke.